WDET is supported by the College of Business Administration at University of Detroit Mercy. UDM's Master of Business Administration is designed to accommodate the career needs of professionals across a variety of work organizations. More information at business.udmercy.edu.
It's the Metro on 101.9 WDET FM. I'm Tia Graham.
And I'm Nick Austin. Today on the show, we'll take a look at why members of the State House and Senate are looking at ways to move money to private entities, things like housing and transit, from a fund that previously was earmarked for private entities.
But first on the Metro, we live in a time of shrinking families. Less people are having children, and for those who are having kids, they are often deciding to have fewer of them. But for those who do pursue fatherhood, it is often deeply meaningful. According to a 2022 survey from the National Fatherhood Initiative, 57% of dads say parenting is extremely important to their identity. So what does it feel like to be a dad? And what are the challenges and delights associated with the role? As it is Father's Day this Sunday, we thought it would be nice to ask these questions to three dads who work here at WDET. So, to discuss, we have Ryan Carlson with us. He is a senior systems administrator at WDET, and he has two daughters, a girl dad, a 12-year-old, and a 15-year-old. Welcome to the show.
Oh, good to be here.
Also, we have Jerome Vaughn. He is the news director here at WDET. He has 8 kids, and the oldest is 30, and the youngest is 14. Welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
And last but not least, we have a new dad with us here, David Lyons. He is a senior producer for this show, and he is a father of a 9-month-old daughter. Welcome to the show, David.
Thanks for having me on, Tia and Nick. I appreciate it.
I guess thanks for being on this side of the mic.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd be here today, but I'm happy I am.
Look at how things happen for us. So, Dave, when did you envision yourself becoming a father?
Oh, man. So I'm one of 4 kids, so I kind of always just figured I had a great example of my father, his dad. Shout out to Bill. He's been a great example for me. So I kind of just always figured I would be, but it got real once I met my wife, Taylor. We've been together for like 10 years now, but we got a 9-month-old. But yeah, I didn't start thinking real concretely about it till we got together. And then we're both like, yeah, sometime we want to try and get into this. But of course, you know, being millennials, trying to get through college, get real jobs through the financial crisis, it took a little bit longer probably than we would have expected or hoped, but here we are.
Here we are with an adorable little baby. And Jerome, we're moving over here to you. You have lots of kids. Did you desire to be a father as time changed over time?
Oh, I always wanted to be a
Really?
dad, wanted to get married and have kids. And, after the first one, it was wonderful. It was tough. At times, I used to like to sleep. I've given that up now. But after each one, we thought, could we do another one? Yeah, we could do another one. The house has never felt crowded. So it's been great being a dad.
Awesome. And Ryan, you are a girl dad. My dad is a girl dad, so shout out to the girl dads out there. But what has your experience been like, especially being just a girl dad?
I love being a girl dad, actually. It's a lot different. I mean, they test my patience in a different way than boys do. You know, I was one of 2 boys, so very different upbringing in that respect. But the love that they show is unconditional. So I absolutely love it. We always knew we wanted to have at least 2 kids. We actually stopped there, but so I give props to Jerome because it's amazing to see large families and how they do it, because I can't imagine having more than 2, to be honest with you. But I love my kids more than anything, and I love watching them grow up and become awesome adults.
Yeah. Whenever I think about you, I just think about the Taylor Swift concert, and I just think about you being among the dads there picking up the girls from the Taylor Swift concert. But David, your little one isn't 1 yet, so this is your first time being a dad. Mm-hmm. What has that experience been like for you so far?
Honestly, it's been the best thing in my life. All the good cliches have been true for sure, and even some of the ones that are more difficult, like the no sleep thing. That's all right though. It's totally worth the trade-off. I mean, our daughter's name is Cora, and she is just such a sweet, beautiful girl. She's so happy most of the time. She's got teeth coming in. She's crawling around. She's picking stuff up. just having fun, figuring out the world, getting call it brought online, getting coordinated, figuring out how everything works. So it's honestly been amazing, even though there's plenty of challenges. But like I feel like I'm 9 months old now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Just to follow up, like you are 9 months into it now, but you also had the 9 months before Cora was born. But you have this before and after, this really, really fresh memory of I was a single man without a child. Now I have a child. So what has that contrast been like?
I mean, people have been calling me Domestic Dave for a while because I like doing chores and keeping things together and, Mr. Reliable all the time. So that part actually has fit in really nicely. I think, honestly, being a dad, the thing that I was not quite ready for, didn't really understand, was the lack of time to do basic things that require two hands. So now I can make coffee with one hand. I can do laundry with one hand. I can brush teeth and hold Cora while she's brushing her teeth. So all the one-handed stuff. I didn't think I'd be that good at it. I've got like a little bit stronger left arm now. It's how I kind of hold her most of the time.
You see what I'm saying, David? You're just like, the dad jokes just come in.
Yeah, I mean, I've been practicing. Jerome's been prepping me for 5 years since I've been here at DET.
Yeah. Jerome is like dad to all of us, so you're right. Yeah, he's been prepping us all.
Yeah.
So, out of all three, we're going to ask all these questions. Dave, not you yet, because Cora can't give you a gift other than her happy smile in the morning. But to you, Jerome and Ryan, what has been one of the favorite gifts or the most... the gift that you remember the most that your kids have given you? We're going to start with you, Ryan.
Oh, geez. Probably both my kids made me, and it was gifts from school, actually, where they handmade plates with, their names on it and then pictures that they created on the plates. Those were awesome. Like one of the coolest things is just see the creativity in them at the different ages. So one of them we still have. The other one, unfortunately, got broke along the way, which is just part of having a family. Things get broken. But like that's one of the cooler ones that I've gotten from them. Most of the time, I'm not like a big gift person. So like I just like enjoying family time, right? So on days like that, it's like having lunch, barbecuing, hanging out. As they get older, like we try to go play golf here and there when we can. But yeah, the plates are definitely front and center, I think.
Yeah, Jerome?
So one day, my wife and my kids got me in the car, blindfolded me, took me somewhere. I didn't know where it was. We got there. They gave me a shoebox with money in it, coins and some dollar bills and whatnot. And what they wanted me to do with this money, and I did, was to lease a Volkswagen Beetle. They know how much I love those cars. Right now I'm driving a 16-year-old car, and I always drive, an old car because, it's what they need. That comes first. What do the kids need? What do the wife need? That comes first. And they were like, Dad, you do that all the time. We want to do this for you. And so, I had, $12 for a down payment for a VW Beetle, which I then had to lease because it was so special.
That is so awesome. That is a beautiful story. I hope that my dad has a story like that. I don't know if I've given him any cool gifts, but I hope you have that same thing in your mind. But right now we're speaking with Ryan Carlson, David Lyons, and Jerome Vaughn, all WDET staff members. And before we continue to move on with the show, Ryan and JV, I just want to ask you both to give David Lyons a little bit of advice, being dads for a long time now. So JV, starting with you, what advice would you give David being a new father?
Love them, soak up every minute of it. It sounds cliche, but it's not. The time goes really fast, so don't take it for granted, and don't sweat the small stuff.
Ryan?
Yeah, I agree. Don't sweat the small stuff. I think the biggest thing is just being in the moment. Really, like JV said, it's a little cliche, but sometimes you just get wrapped up in the emotional stuff that's going on, and if you can just take a minute to kind of take a deep breath and be like, hey, look, I'm not going to have this moment again, right? Good, bad, whatever, doesn't really matter, because it just flies by. All of a sudden, you go from having a 1-year-old to having a daughter in high school, and you're like, oh my God, like this thing it felt like 2 years and it's been 15.
Wow. I know, David. Any thoughts?
Thanks for the advice. It's heavy. I'm definitely going to try and soak up every moment. I'm definitely like first time father. Everything is brand new. But, as Cora grows up, it's already fast. I mean, last week she wasn't crawling.
Yeah.
She can say dada now, which is cool. Yeah, so that I like. That's a good Father's Day present for me from her.
Well, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Once again, chatting with Ryan Carlson, David Lyons, and Jerome Vaughn are all WDET staff members and staff dads. Thank you all so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Have a great show, y'all.
It's the Metro on 1019 WDET. That was Tia Graham, as well as the dads of WDET. I'm Nick Austin here. We'll have more conversations getting into celebrations for Father's Day to get you prepared for this weekend. But coming up next, we'll talk to a state rep who's looking to pass legislation that would invest money in things like transit and housing. We'll tell you how and why when we speak with him when we return on the Metro.
Welcome back to the Metro here on 1019 WDET FM. Nick Austin is here. I'm Tia Graham. Today,
That's right.
yeah, we're just going to get into a little bit of weather. It's going to be nice today, Nick. Really nice today. You have on a baseball jersey, so are you going to a baseball game?
Not in the slightest. This is just representing and, suits and ties most of the week, every now and again on a Friday. Got to keep it kind of casual.
Got to bust loose.
Casual,
Just bust loose. Friday, it's going to be partly cloudy. Sunshine peeks through with a high of 80 degrees. So definitely hit the baseball park if you can today. If there's a game, I didn't check yet.
Do you know why I'm really wearing this? Because you did the weather, yesterday?
Yeah.
And I found out how hot it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I thought I'm going to have to change the attire up just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it's nice. Nice change.
Yeah. But one thing we're trying to do is heat up our economy here in Michigan. And that leads us to wonder, what's the best way to do this? How do you spur economic development? Is it to lure businesses to the state so that they can hire people and stir innovation, creating more jobs, attracting more money? Or is it to invest in your talent at home and put that money into things like education, transit, and childcare? There are the debates happening right now in Lansing on these issues, and it's an interesting one because the tenor of the conversation has been shifting. In the last few decades, Michigan legislators have been distributing billions of dollars to corporations, but now the state is looking to inject some of that money into public projects. For the next 10 years, new legislation that was recently fast-tracked through the state house would put $2 billion towards things like bus rapid transit and commuter rail. So why the shift in the state legislature? Can the bill pass? What more can the legislation do? To discuss this now, we have the sponsor of the bill here, Rep. Jason Hopkins of Southfield. He's overseeing the 18th district there. State Rep. Hoskins, thanks for joining us on the Metro.
And thank you for having me.
Yeah, so when we talk about things like the SOAR Fund, which is what a lot of this is getting into, it makes us think about the way we invest money right now. And a lot of that money, of course, that money's been going to corporations. There's been a slight shift now to put money towards public entities. What do you think is behind this change and this focus now and maybe investing some of that money into the public sector?
I think that we needed a much more consistent and comprehensive economic growth strategy here in the state. And that's something I certainly have been working on since I've been chair of the House Economic Development and Small Business Committee. We needed to shift our focus and really make sure that we were not only attracting business and retaining business here to the state, but also making sure that we're doing all those things necessary to attract talent here to the state. And I think with this legislation, I think it's a win-win strategy for doing both. We're able to do everything that I think we need to, attract that talent, make sure we're investing in housing in transit, making our communities more vibrant and livable, and also being able to do those things to attract business to the state as well.
Yeah, and when we're talking about this fund, again, you're looking at with your bill overhauling how the SOAR fund works, the Strategic Outreach and Attraction Reserve. So can you tell us from your standpoint what's going on with it now, and how would your bill and what you're trying to do change it?
So right now, $600 million was dedicated to just the SOAR fund, and that was mainly dedicated just towards business attraction. That was supposed to end next year, and quite frankly, it's a more short-term strategy when we're talking about what we can do for business attraction. And so, what this legislation is going to do is it's going to take that $600 million dedicated to business attraction. Some of the money will go to business attraction, which is something that, is definitely important for the state. But then the rest of the money is going to go to affordable housing.
Yeah. When you say business attraction, though, what does that exactly look like? Are we talking advertisement to get people here, or go ahead?
Yeah, we're talking about incentivizing ways that we can incentivize businesses to come and stay in the state of Michigan.
Excellent. So what else would you think that the distinction's doing here? Because I think what folks wonder about is when we're talking about big pots of money like this, in the past we've seen that there's been investment in private business, but that hasn't necessarily rendered what we expected would result, right? Like between 2002 and 2006, $110 million went to GM for the expansion of plants in Ypsilanti, but by 2009, those plants had been closed. So when we're talking about these kind of funds, why would we put more money into even the public or the private portion of it? Why not just take all of those funds and put it in the public sector?
And that's what's so great about this legislation is because not only is it investing in those things like housing and transit and community revitalization, it also is making sure that we are putting guardrails in place when we're talking about incentivizing businesses to come here, because we want to make sure that we are investing, the people's money well when we're talking about trying to attract business here. Yeah. And we put these guardrails in place to make sure that, one, if you are going to be using taxpayer dollars, you better make sure there's going to be a return on it. And if you don't make that return, if you're not giving the jobs that you're promising, if you're not doing the things that you say you're going to be doing, that money has to come back to the state.
We've seen a lot of that. People have been wondering about that investment. How do we make sure we have guardrails up? You just referenced the guardrails. What specifically are you looking at? What are the specific guardrails that would protect against that?
So for example, you have to be able to, you have to create a certain amount of jobs to be able to receive this money. And if you don't, create those jobs, there are provisions in the legislation that have clawbacks that will have the money. If we've given you money already, we'd take the money back. And that money will go back into the general fund, the state, go back into the general fund of the state budget. And that's part of the reason why, again, I like this, because it does make sure that we are protecting taxpayer dollars here. And again, really doing everything that we hope that we can do at the state level. Yeah. When we're talking about economic development, and I've been having a lot of conversations with folks about this legislation, we want to make sure that, again, we're doing everything that we can to have a holistic approach to economic development. And I think that's part of the reason why we have over 120 people, organizations supporting this legislation.
Sure.
And
Rep. Hoskins, if I can just jump in here, because I appreciate that point. I want to make sure that we can touch, before we have to let you go, the public portion of it also, because there is money that is going into funding things like transit, right? There's a line item in there for commuter rail. Can you let us know, Representative Hoskins, what exactly or how that's going to be funded, why you think that's important, and is that going directly to public entities, or is that going to private business to create these public things like transit, investments in transit?
That is a great question, and thank you for asking. So how this will work? $200 million over every year for 10 years would go to transit, and how that would be allocated is we would create a transformational project board that will determine where the money would go all around the state, and the money will be distributed equitably, I should say, across the state. So there's not going to be one place that will be able to get potentially all the money. And it's really the money is flexible. So there are some places that may not need, for example, bus rapid transit. Like in the Grand Rapids area, they actually kind of have a more robust bus system there. So they don't necessarily need it there. But for our area, we might absolutely want to use it for bus rapid transit or commuter rail or whatever purpose. And that's part of the beauty of this legislation is that it really does have that flexibility in place.
All right. State House Representative Jason Hoskins, Democrat out of Southfield, overseeing the 18th District. Thank you so much for joining us on the Metro.
All right. Thank you.
This is The Metro on 101.9 WDET FM. You just heard from Nick Austin. I'm Tia Graham. Coming up, we'll hear about parenting lessons from NPR's Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me host, Peter Sagal. You all stay right there.
It's the Metro on 101.9 WDET. I'm Nick Austin.
And I'm Tia Graham. What does it look like to be a good father?
I have no clue, Tia. Please tell me.
Oh, my Lanta. I was going to say for me,
Yeah.
My dad, he used to bring me a lot of Gatorades and different things when he used to come to all of our games after working all day long. Still show
That's
up to the
pretty
game, bring everyone Gatorades, be there at the game, knowing that
good.
he's probably not going to see a really good match. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But just there to support.
That's right.
And I love that so much. So last year, host of NPR's Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, Peter Sagal, took a crack at answering that tall question. Both a parent of older children and a father of a newborn, Peter reflected on his opportunity at being a father and wrote about what he did well and what he didn't do well in an essay for The Atlantic. Last year, my colleague Nick Austin spoke with Peter about his lessons for parenting. They started this conversation speaking about the challenges parents face today.
There's so much that is thrown at a first-time parent, people often in their 20s or 30s. And a lot of it is commercially driven. The baby industrial complex, wants to, just cover you with and sell you all kinds of advice and books and devices and stuff. And there's this presumption that every decision you make as a parent will affect your child profoundly. How well it sleeps, how well it does in school, the baby Mozart thing. Or you got to show black and white pictures, or you got to buy this, or you got to buy that, or you got to watch it. None of that matters. Yeah. It doesn't have any effect. And so stop worrying, everybody, I know I expose myself, don't read what to expect when you're expecting, just it'll be fine, really. And then the other bit of advice that I have is, ironically, everything matters, in that you do have to be present. You are the entirety, you and your partner, whoever you're raising your child with or partners, you are the entirety of that child's world. And so you need to take it seriously. It's not something you just acquire and takes care of itself, obviously. And so the summary of my advice, and I can get into more of it, is to be present and be cool. I think about all the things I worried about, all the things I obsessed about my first time through parenting, which now dates 25 years ago. And none of it was important. All the things I worry about happening never happened. The things that did happen, I never knew were coming. And I would have been so much better off just being present in the moment than worrying about whether this will affect my child's future later, or whether that was the appropriate thing, or which program, or whatever. Just be there now and relax.
When I hear that, I think about the scenario where people don't want to be someone who says, oh, nothing matters. So then they just kind of throw their kids out there, because you also mentioned you have to have the being present point in it. And and so parsing out what that means for different people in different moments can be interesting, because there are definitely some parents out there who have said, oh, well, great, I can go party or do whatever the heck I want. This kid will be fine. So do you have any advice on how you find that little median point to make sure you are present, but not in an overbearing way?
Well, I think it's, one of the things I've learned as I've gotten older, because a lot of this, and I should say, has to do with both the privilege, burdens, and benefits of age. The first time I had children, I was in my early 30s. I was pursuing my career. I had a lot of other priorities, socially and professionally. That's less true now. I mean, I'm almost 60. I'm not worrying about being discovered anymore. But one of the advantages of age is you can look back in your life and learn some lessons. And one of the things I have learned is the value of the perspective of looking back. One of the things I've learned to do as I need to make a decision about how to handle any kind of situation is, how am I going to feel about this later? Am I going to look back on this moment? What am I going to want to have done? If you can follow my reasoning here. Do I want to look back in this moment, say a conflict with a coworker? Do I want to look back in this moment a week, a month from now and say, did I handle it well? Was I calm? Was I cool? Did I get to a resolution, or did I blow my top, or whatever? That can apply to parenting really easily. When you look back on your child's young days, be it an infant, 5, 10 years old, what do you want to be able to tell yourself that you did? What do you want to be able to tell yourself about the choices you made? And chances are you're going to look back and want to have been there, want to have been present, want to have been attentive, want to have been more than anything loving and supportive and kind. And you probably won't look back and say, you know what, I wish I had gone to that party instead.
Yeah.
And I find that perspective more than anything to be the most useful, to know that, time goes on. You're not, as much as I say you need to be in the present, you'll be looking back on the present from the future, and think about your choices from that perspective. I find that very helpful.
That is very helpful. And it's really interesting, I think, that you bring that up, because one of the things that I really appreciated you sharing in the piece was how in prior moments you had relied on the default of, okay, what would my parents have done in that moment? And maybe relied on that as guidance a little bit more than you think you should have. How were you able to get out of that habit? What was that experience like? And what advice would you have for folks who are thinking the same way? Go ahead.
First of all, everybody I know, or at least most people I know, maybe it's my social circle, have certain complaints about their parents. Oh, you wouldn't believe what my parents did, or you wouldn't believe I'm never going to be like my dad or my mom because they did X or Y. And one of the things that happens is when you become a parent, nobody gives you a manual, right? They don't give you an owner's manual with the baby at the hospital. So you end up relying on the model of your own parents, good or bad. Yeah. As I say in the article, most people have that model. They're either going to rebel against it or replicate it. And at least my experience, you end up replicating it more than you think you will, because it's all you got. And I have absolutely nothing but sympathy. We're all trying to get along in this world, and we use the lessons we have. I have this amazing advantage. I can use my own model. I can remember what I was like as a father the first time around and react to that. And that's a lot more useful when you're talking about yourself, Again, to invoke the video game model, this isn't the first time I've been through this level. And I'm not sure I will succeed, but I think I'll get a little farther if I remember my mistakes the first time through.
That was Nick Austin speaking with host of NPR's Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, Peter Sagal. This is The Metro.
That's right. It is The Metro on 101.9 WDET. That's Dia Graham. I am Nick Austin here, hanging out with you, getting you prepared for the weekend, Father's Day. But I'll let you in on a little secret. Our lawmakers out there in the executive, they're parents too. That's right. Not just some monolithic thing when you talk about the government. Who is the government? What is the government? The government did this and that. The government is made up of you and me, people. They have families as well. And we want to learn a little bit more about their experience in being a parent, being a father, as well as being someone very important to our state. And when we think of who might potentially be the highest level of representative in our state that's also a father, look no further than Lieutenant Governor Garlin Gilchrist, who is a father of 3. He's got twins, a boy and a girl that I believe are in their 10 years old right now, as well as his youngest daughter about to turn 5. We want to get that insight. That's why we brought him here right now. Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist, welcome to the Metro.
Thank you for having me, and happy early Father's Day to all the fathers across Michigan.
That's right. So, Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist, is someone who's not only in a position of looking over a lot of people's children, but having your own. How do you reconcile being a father with that family, but also the large responsibilities that you have in terms of being someone who's very important to what we do here in the state and kind of overseeing other people's kids as well?
Well, my first job is to be Ellen Gilchrist's husband, and my second job is to be Garlin.
Good
Emily,
answer.
Ruby's dad, and so I take that job very seriously, and it's an honor. Look, I became a father on my birthday in 2013, and it has really changed my life for the better. I was so proud holding my boy-girl twins in that hospital, and I benefited, and I heard this a little bit in your interview, I benefited from having a very strong father, Garlin Gilchrist Sr., and he laid a good roadmap for me about what it meant to not only be present, but to support our children emotionally as well as, physically and financially and all the things, and to be a role model. He continues to be my hero.
Yeah, and you can kind of see that. Again, one of your twins, the boy twin, is Garland III. You're Garland II. Your father's also Garland. Obviously, that means a lot to you and your family. Give us a little bit more insight into what you've learned, especially being there emotionally. Do you have any specific stories or examples that you can share with us that we might be able to learn from?
I mean, one of the things that's most beautiful as a parent is being able to understand what makes your child unique. Like, everybody thinks that their kid is special, and they are in their own different ways, but really being able to see that. I am so blown away, for example, by how my son is the most gifted storyteller I've ever met. From the moment he could talk, as long as you asked him an open-ended question, he could give you a whole story. Mm-hmm. And so seeing that creativity in him compared to my oldest daughter's creativity, where her imagination runs wild and she's always in a drawer or a painter and things like that. And then my baby girl kind of molds them both together. My father paid attention to my gifts and found ways to support me. And so I'm trying to emulate him by supporting my own children. But my dad also challenges me. And I think that's an important role for fathers to play, is to challenge their children. And he actually has challenged me as an elected official. My dad is retired from the Department of Defense, and we were trying to we proposed rolling back the retirement tax, and my dad was like, every day you need to roll back that retirement tax. I need my full pension. And so it took me 5 years to do it, but finally I got him off of my back. So he's been challenging me since I was a child, but something I appreciate about him, and I try to emulate that in a healthy way with my own family.
Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist, how did your father actually do that? How did he help bring that out of you and show you who you were?
It's cultivation. It's talking with me and actually listening to me. One of the most important things to me was to, feel like my dad heard me, and he took the time. And so I try to do that, even though I have a busy schedule going all over. I can be anywhere in Michigan on any given day. But trying to really be as present with my kids as I can when I'm with them, to make eye contact with them. They hold their hands. They know that I'm listening to them and they're with them and I care about them and they're a priority. My dad showed me that, even though he was a very busy man himself with his own work and his own responsibilities to our extended family. And so his model is something that I'm trying to aspire toward as a dad. And so I'm excited to celebrate him this Father's Day.
And, when I'm listening to you right now, I just hear priorities, making sure that you're putting your what's important to you at the top of your priority list. And I also just go back to being a Black man here in the city of Detroit, growing up in the city of Detroit. What is it like for you, especially being a Black father, passing down those messages and those lessons?
But we have so many father figures throughout the city of Detroit. So whether you are a father to your own children or you are a father figure to other children in your life, there are so many examples of amazing Black men who are present in the lives of young people and helping to mold the women and men of tomorrow. And I benefited from that, being in a beautiful Black community on the east side of Detroit as a child. And I knew there were many men who loved me in my life and on my block. And I think it's important for young people to see that there are lots of adults who care about them, even if they don't live in their household or are not related to them by blood, but we are connected by a shared experience today and a shared future tomorrow. And, you know, my experience as a Detroiter, whether it's as a child or now in Detroit as an adult, is that we have that in spades. And so, you know, Black fathers are the most present fathers according to surveys and Pew Research and others. And I think that as a result of that, we have an opportunity to build amazing Black futures. And there's no better place to do that than Detroit, Michigan.
We're speaking to Lieutenant Governor Garlin Gilchrist right now as we get you prepared for Father's Day this weekend. And Lieutenant Governor, one of the things I'm struck by here, you mentioned your dad who worked in defense. And I think when we think historically of dads, we think of that provider model, that strength character, the protector of the family. And that makes us think a little bit more of a harder edge, right? Stronger. I'm noticing, though, in your speaking, talking about the importance of emotions. There's a little unique softness I even hear in your presentation here. How do you balance those tensions, the idea of the father as the classic protector versus protecting in a way where it shows this softness, being able to have some access to emotion and understanding the needs there also?
I don't think those are in conflict with one another. If you create a space and experience an environment for someone to be safe, that means that they can be completely safe in being everything that they are, can for their full humanity and the full spectrum of their mind, body, and soul can be present. The ability to be vulnerable, and sometimes you have to model vulnerability in order to let people know that it's safe to be vulnerable. So I think in creating safety is creating the possibility for that at home or in a safe space. And so I think that it's important that fathers show that it's okay to both women and men that you can be vulnerable, and that people need to be to protect that for folks, because a lot of the challenges that we may see, a lot of the demons that people carry and are fighting that lead to the scourges of things like addiction and other mental and behavioral health challenges, they often exist because people have not had that safety, have not had the ability to be vulnerable, to have someone who will listen to them and let them know that they are seen and they are heard and that they are cared for. And so creating that safety, I think, is one of the most important jobs of a father and of a parent.
You know, Lieutenant Governor, another unique aspect of your parenting right now, you have twins, right? That's not the most common thing out there. And I suspect for some, they'd like to learn a little bit more about what's unique about that for you. Any interesting stories, or what can you tell us that's unique about, especially for your first group being twins? Go for it.
Oh, my gosh. We went from 0 to 2.
Yeah, right.
Blessing. I said that was the best birthday present I ever got. My wife, who's an amazing human being, look, we had to be really regimented when they were born. We had to be really disciplined. We had to feed them at the same time, try to get them a nap at the same time. And it was really a big thing for me because I'm an only child. Wow. So I never experienced siblings. So to be able to observe that from jump with my son and my daughter, how they interact with each other, and they still to this day, I mean, they bicker like siblings bicker, but they love each other so much. And like it's cool to see, but they also know how to get on each other's nerves. So, like, it's really it's funny. So sometimes I find myself being like, y'all, can y'all just like take a break? Like, why is it that both of y'all can't be happy at the same time? And so like I struggle with that, but again, what my job is though is to let them know, let them know that I know that they're important and that they are also individuals. Like one of the things that may happen with twins, especially if twins are the same gender, like I don't have that, but if they are the same sex or gender, sometimes they may get treated like they are the same person or have more in common than they actually do. So one thing that my wife, who is a twin herself, she has a twin sister, she's very mindful about making sure that we pay attention to them as individual, distinct, different, unique people. And I think that's helped us make sure that they feel seen and heard.
Yeah, that's so important. I'm glad you bring that up there. By the way, just to let you in on a tip, they know that they're trading off. They only have so much stamina, so it's all cahoots to go against you. It's the big plot. Just accept it now, and things will go better for you, Lieutenant Governor. But one more before we get out of here. You mentioned emotional vulnerability. We're creating a safe space here, talking about these conversations. And one of the things that we talked about was the gifts that fathers receive on Father's Day. A lot of socks, a lot of ties. I'm going to give you a chance on both. What's the worst gift you've received for Father's Day? What's the best gift you've received for Father's Day? Go ahead.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. You know that book, like the 5 love languages?
Yeah.
Like gift giving is not my love language. So for me, I just love the opportunity to be able to have special quality and uninterrupted time. I don't have a high bar for something that I need. I'm not one who's really generally disappointed in the gifts that I receive. So I actually don't really struggle with that too much in the way that other people might. But just look, any father will tell you that hearing your kid say, "I love you," is just like it melts you every single time, from the moment they start talking to all the way when they're grown. And so that's really all I care about is that time.
Yeah, and that's the great place to end it. Lieutenant Governor Garlin Gilchrist, thank you so much for joining us on the Metro.
Thanks y'all for having me. Happy Father's Day, everyone.
This is the Metro. I'm Tia Graham. You just heard from Nick Austin, and we just love talking about Father's Day and dads here on the show today. However, coming up, we'll hear about a performance from the Detroit Symphony Orchestra that's taking place at the Anton Art Center in Mount Clemens. You all stay right there.
It's the Metro on 101.9 WDET. I'm Nick Austin.
And I'm Tia Graham. The music you're listening to is from Alea Brown, a soprano with the Detroit Opera, and you could hear it this weekend, but not in Detroit. The Detroit Opera is hitting the road, heading to the Anton Art Center in Mount Clemens for a celebration of freedom and history telling. Tomorrow, the Detroit Opera and Traveling Ensemble will perform at the Anton Art Center, and their show will include spiritual hymns, often sung by enslaved Africans, and popular songs associated with famous African-American singers. Joining the show now to talk more about the performance tomorrow is Matt Matthews, the executive director of the Anton Art Center. Welcome to the Metro.
Hi, good morning. Thank you.
Yeah, so why did you all invite the Traveling Ensemble to Mount Clemens?
Our partnership with the opera goes back several years. Going back to about 2020, the opera has performed with us and in our space, and we're excited to continue that partnership and continue that program, particularly this year with the Juneteenth celebration.
And when you say it went back to 2020, was this due to the COVID-19 pandemic, or was it before?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
I have been at the Anton Art Center for just about 2 months, and so I don't know the answer to that.
So you're new to this whole thing. So you're 2 months into this. You come into it with a large scale performance that you're going to be ahead of. So what is it like for you planning something of this scale or being a part of something of this scale?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The opera has been great to work with. We're excited to have them in our space, to bring folks out. They've been great partners of us and great stewards of the work that we're doing there. Our histories are sort of similar. The Anton Art Center right now is in its 55th year in Mount Clemens. We're housed in a historic Carnegie Library, so the history of our building goes back more than 100 years. But the Art Center has been there for 55, which is real similar to the Detroit Opera that I think is in 53, 55 years in Detroit. And so we share a similar timeline and history, and it's exciting to continue to partner with them.
All right, so how long have you been in the Mount Clemens area itself? Are you familiar with the area?
I am. I live in Macomb County.
All right.
I have for the last several years worked throughout the state in a lot of different ways, but I'm excited now to be working where I live, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's perfect segue, because I think about Mount Clemens, I think about Macomb County, I think about the community. In what ways do you hope this enriches the community, bringing something like this to that area?
We are our gallery and our space there. We're one of a kind in Mount Clemens and in Macomb County. These don't exist in the same way, where we're offering classes and bringing folks in to experience art and participate in art. We have 2 galleries and 10 to 12 shows rotating through our galleries every year, and there's not another place like that in Macomb County to experience those things.
I was just thinking about all the things that we talk about here on the Metro, especially just talking about Detroit, Metro Detroit, of course, but Macomb County is one of the places that we really want to hone in on, especially the arts community. And here we are right now chatting with the Anton Art Center. Executive Director Matt Matthews is here with us. So when we think about, once again, Mount Clemens, the community, Macomb County, this event, Juneteenth event, can you give us the rundown? What can people expect for that night?
Yeah, it's going to be a beautiful show. The Detroit Opera Touring Ensemble is performing. The event is free. It is open to the public. Please join us. But it's a celebration and a recognition of Juneteenth and of African-American operatic performers. There will be, as you said, African-American spirituals, but also a collection of famous arias associated with African-American singers, as well as the works of a French violinist and conductor and composer who was among the first classical composers of African descent in European music.
I had just found him out a few years ago, actually. His name is Joseph Bellone. That's as far as I can go with his name, but Joseph Bellone.
I am going to trust you.
Alrighty then, cool beans. Yeah, so, but I found him a few years ago, and that was one of the first times I thought to myself, I never thought about Black composers or Black conductors in that way, to be like the first to do it. So to see that he did that in the 1700s, and to see that you all are going to be bringing in ensemble who's going to be paying homage to him is a really, really cool thing. So just, if you can, go into the importance of telling the history of these, of Juneteenth, of course, but just using music to tell this history.
Yeah, well, Juneteenth is actually on June 19th. Yeah. Our event is on the 15th. But it was the day in 1865 when the last enslaved Americans in Galveston, Texas, received word that they'd been freed more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. And so to be able to be a part of that story and to tell that story, particularly through music, but also in the art space, where arts and culture organizations and the opera and galleries are spaces that have not traditionally been safe for Black and brown people. And so to be able to be a part of that and to be able to tell that story and to celebrate that with the Detroit Opera is exciting.
Yes. And, as we were talking about, of course, what's happening this Saturday, we also have something that you are also a part of, the biannual Mighty Real Queer Detroit. Once again, it's a biannual exhibit, happens every 2 years. It's a highlight of LGBTQ plus art from the city of Detroit and around, of course, Metro Detroit and the world, honestly. And you all are taking a part of that, part of one of 11 galleries.
Yeah, June 15th is a full and busy day for us. We have a show that opens at 1 p.m. The show is called I'll Be Your Mirror, Reflections of a Contemporary Queer. And that show at 1 is a reception and artist talk, and that's hosted by Macomb County Pride. We are one of 11 galleries across southeastern Michigan and are very excited to be the only Macomb County gallery participating in the event. And it is in partnership with Mighty Real Queer Detroit. It's curated by Mighty Real's Patrick Burton. The exhibition is developed for LGBTQ plus identifying artists to share their work. And we at the Anton will be featuring 74 pieces of work by 29 artists across the country, but also we have some pieces by international artists, which is exciting. And then there are also three Southeastern Michigan, Detroit-based artists who are participating in our show. Daryl Dingus, Evan Lockhart, and Amelia Naraki are all local artists that will be in our show as well.
Really exciting times for you guys. So you're going to be super busy tomorrow.
It's going to be a full day.
And before I let you go, of course, just give us one more time the time and date for the event tomorrow night.
Yeah, tomorrow night it's at 6 p.m. at the Anton Art Center in downtown Mount Clemens.
All righty then. Matt Matthews is the Executive Director of the Anton Art Center. To learn more about visiting the Anton Art Center, head to theartcenter.org. Matthew, thank you so much for being here with us. Matt, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And that's going to do it for the Metro for Friday, June 15th. You can listen to recent episodes online at WDET.org and make sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
The show is produced by Sam Corey, David Lyons, and Jack Philbrandt. Our engineer is Nate Bender, and our producers are Sydney Walkley and Anil Scott.
The Metro is a production of WDET, a listener-supported service of Wayne State University. If you like what you hear and want to support the Metro, consider becoming a member at WDET.org/donate.
This is WDET-FM, Detroit Public Radio, your connection to news, music, and conversation. Thanks so much for listening, and talk to you Monday.
Tia, you've got a father. What was he like? What's his story?
Awesome, amazing. Shout out to you, David. Shout out to David.
All right now. Shout out to David.
WDET is supported by the College of Business Administration at University of Detroit Mercy. UDM is offering a new master's degree in ethical leadership focused on sustainable, ethical, and inclusive problem solving. More information at business.udmercy.edu.